I remember that night so clearly, a cold winter night in mid-January in Denver, Colorado. Snow drifted softly outside the hospital window, and inside the emergency room, I, Mark Evans, 45 years old, a mechanical engineer who took pride in reason and science, was lying on the operating table. My heart stopped. It all began like a mild chest pain, but within minutes the darkness rushed in. I heard the doctor shout, "We've lost the rhythm! Clear!" Everything in me shut down. I knew I had died. But then something strange happened. I was still there. I could still hear, still see, still feel, but no longer inside my body. I saw myself lying motionless while the nurses rushed around the table, machines screaming. I noticed beads of sweat rolling down the young doctor's forehead as he tried to compress my heart, his hands trembling in desperate effort. In that moment I felt no fear, only a profound stillness, as if all the pain, worry, and noise of this world had been switched off. I drifted upward, light as a breath, through the operating room ceiling, and looked down. I remember thinking, what is this? Am I dreaming? But what dream feels this real? I saw a light, not the hospital's lamps, but a gentle, living white radiance, as if inviting me. As I moved toward it, my heart knew, though my brain could not understand, that I was being called to a realm beyond this world. In that light I heard a voice, not through my ears, but through my soul. "Mark, you were loved before you knew what love was." In that instant, every memory flooded back: childhood, parents, work, all those nights alone in a cold machine shop trying to prove that only matter is real. I used to mock other people's faith, insisting God was just a comforting illusion. But here, in the boundless expanse of light, I knew I'd been wrong. I was standing before something more real than anything I had ever known. That light didn't just shine, it was alive. And in its life I felt love. A love that didn't judge or demand, but covered and healed. I was like a child being held by his mother after a nightmare. I knew I had died, yet I had never felt so alive. I looked back and saw my body being worked on, my wife weeping in the hallway, my son covering his face in prayer, the same son I had taught. God isn't real. Now he was saying, God, please save my dad. And I, the unbeliever, was being saved by my son's faith. As I drifted away from that room, time seemed to stop. Each second was eternity, each beam of light, a memory. I passed through a field of gold like dawn, where tiny particles of light floated like the souls of multitudes. I heard singing not from mouths, but from the very atmosphere. I didn't know the language, yet every sound melted my heart. Then I realized I was no longer alone. A figure appeared ahead, brighter than any light, radiant but not blinding, powerful yet tender. I knew instantly who he was. No introduction, no name needed. My soul recognized before my mind did it was Jesus. He looked at me with eyes like seas of fire, not to burn but to reveal. Every secret, every mistake, every hidden thing stood open under that gaze. I trembled, wanting to hide, but he drew near and smiled. "Mark, I know it all," he said, "and I still love you." When he reached out his hand, it felt as if 1,000 currents of love flowed through me, erasing every guilt and fear. In his presence I was no longer an engineer, a skeptic, or a proud man. I was a lost child found by the Father. He said, "You think your life is only work, only matter, only what eyes can see. But there is another world, larger and truer, waiting for you." I looked around and saw countless souls, some shining like the sun, others dim and heavy. The Lord placed his hand on my shoulder and pointed. Every soul carries the light or the darkness they chose on earth. No one is forced. This is simply the fruit of the love they gave or refused. I asked, "Lord, why am I seeing this?" He replied, "Because you're not finished, Mark. You have something to say to them, those who are alive but do not know they are dying." He showed me images of the world storms rolling in, cities under water, disease spreading, wars erupting. I saw people fleeing one another, hearts full of fear. Yet in the midst of that darkness I also saw small groups praying, light streaming from them and pushing back the night. The Lord said, "That is hope, Mark. Though darkness covers, my light is greater." I wept. I knew He wanted me to return and tell it all, so others would believe there truly is a love beyond human understanding. I begged, "Let me stay. This place is too beautiful, too peaceful." But He shook His head. "Not yet. Go back and live as one who has seen the life to come." He touched my forehead. The light poured in, and then everything vanished. I heard the heart monitor, heard people calling my name, and the white of the hospital replaced heaven's glory. I opened my eyes, gasping. People shouted, "He's back!" But I knew I was no longer the old Mark Evans. I had touched eternity, and from that moment my life was forever changed. I remember every moment of that day as if carved into my soul. It was the 14th of August, 2024, a normal morning at the machine shop where I'd worked for more than 20 years. I woke, gulped my coffee, kissed my wife, and left home, not knowing it would be the last time I saw her face with earthly eyes. I'd always been healthy, seldom sick, but something was wrong that morning. While inspecting a machine, a stabbing pain shot through my chest, like someone squeezing my heart in a fist. I tried to stand firm, to breathe, but each breath grew shorter. I braced myself against the bench, cold sweat pouring, and then everything went dark. I heard someone shout in panic, "Call 911! Hurry!" Tools clattered to the floor, footsteps pounded, and rain ticked against the metal door like destiny's metronome. Then, suddenly, silence. No sound, no pain, no breath. I thought I had fainted, but in truth, I had died. As my body collapsed, my heart stopped for 7 minutes, yet my awareness opened in a strange way. I didn't fall into darkness like people imagine. On the contrary, I was more alert than ever. I saw my body lying there, co-workers trying to rouse me. One man knelt to pray while another dialed for an ambulance. I watched without fear or panic. I felt peace. I wanted to tell them I was still here, that I was okay, but no one could hear. I tried to touch my friend's shoulder, but my hand passed through him like wind through mist. I had no weight, no form, only consciousness clear, light, fully aware. Then the paramedics arrived. They lifted me onto a stretcher, attached electrodes. The defibrillator beeped as if trying to tug me back to life. But then a single long tone, beep, and everything stopped. That was when my heart officially ceased. In the ER, they did everything: compressions, adrenaline shots, multiple shocks, yet my body remained still. And I stood there, right beside the table, watching myself. I saw the young doctor press his lips, despair breaking through. I heard a nurse whisper, "We're losing him." Strangely, I felt no fear, no chill, no pain. Only a tranquil brightness surrounded me, soft as a misty dawn, coming from no lamp. I turned toward that radiance and felt a gentle pull, as if it were inviting me onward. I didn't walk out of the room, I was carried by thought. Each time I thought, "Go," I moved. I drifted along the hospital corridor and saw my wife sitting in the waiting area, face pale, hands trembling around the wedding ring I'd given her years ago. She was praying, though we hadn't attended church in a long time. "Lord, please save him." I heard every word, and my heart, though it had stopped, stirred. I wanted to hold her, to say I'm still here, but I couldn't. I could only watch, silent and helpless. Then the inexplicable began. The walls faded, the light grew brighter, and I found myself wrapped in a brilliant, warm, powerful white glow. It was as if millions of voices sang, not with words, but with spirit, a music not of this world, both majestic and gentle. I understood I was leaving the material realm, stepping beyond time and space as I had known them. In that moment, all worry fell away. I no longer thought of work, possessions, or unfinished projects. I sensed one thing: love. Not a human emotion, but a living energy that covered me, soaked into every part of my soul. I knew beyond doubt I was being led somewhere greater where there are no tears, no fear, no time. Before I went further, something made me pause. I heard my 16-year-old son's voice in the next room. "God, please don't let my dad die." Instantly, the light around me trembled, as if someone had plucked a cord between two worlds. I felt my son's love for me so strongly it pierced the boundary between life and death. That love tethered me to the world below. I realized even the smallest prayers can shift the eternal. Then another sound, soft yet clear, rose from within the light. A voice, deep and gentle, full of authority and love. "Mark, do not be afraid. You're not finished." I didn't see the speaker, but every fiber of my soul knew it was Jesus. That sound made me want to kneel, to weep, to say, "Here I am, Lord." A path of light opened ahead, and I knew that if I crossed it, I would never return. While the doctors pressed on my chest and others tried to pull me back, I stood on the threshold between two worlds. On one side, the blazing light, on the other, my body growing cold. Between them was the call of the Creator. I understood that death is not an end, but a door into a truer reality where every mystery becomes clear. The human soul does not vanish. It simply goes home. As I took another step toward the light, I knew my journey was about to begin, the journey to meet the one who made me, the one I had denied, who had never given up on me. I opened my eyes, not with fleshly eyes I'd used for 45 years, but with the eyes of my soul. The first thing I saw was not the white ceiling of the ER, but my own body lying motionless, machines flickering like lost stars, doctors and nurses bustling compressions, injections, calling my name. It all moved like slow motion. I saw a nurse wiping the doctor's sweat, heard a desperate voice whisper, "No response. We're losing him." As they did everything to save me, I felt myself floating, weightless, painless, unburdened. I shouted, "I'm here! I'm alive! I see you!" But no one heard. I reached to touch the anxious young doctor, and my hand passed through his shoulder like wind through smoke. In that instant I understood I was no longer inside my body. The feeling was strange, yet peaceful. I hovered near the ceiling, gazing at my body like an old coat I had taken off. Time vanished, gravity vanished. Everything paused and yet opened into a larger reality. I began seeing through walls and ceilings, as if solid things were thin glass. I saw the long hallway, my wife trembling outside, hands clasped, lips forming prayers we hadn't spoken in years. "God, please don't let him leave me." Her eyes were red, filled with fragile hope. My son held his head, repeating, "God, please save my dad." In that moment I knew their thoughts, not just their faces, but every whisper in their hearts. There was no distance between us. I felt my wife's fear as my own, my son's love like a warm current through my soul. Those cords of love were what tied me to life, not wires, IVs, or needles, but love, praying, love calling my name from this world to the next. I realized something I had never seen. The loving thoughts and words we give each other do not vanish. They carry power and weight, a pull strong enough to draw a soul back from beyond. I perceived the entire hospital at once, as if standing outside of time, every room, every person, every small story unfolding within one scene. I saw the doctor still compressing my chest, the nurse weeping, though she'd seen this so often and never gotten used to the loss. A stranger in the waiting room prayed for someone else, and his prayer reached me too. Far ahead, a tender yet majestic light beckoned. Space and time grew transparent. I knew the soul is not bound by what binds the body. I could be in the operating room and at my wife's side, and before that light all at once. I stood between my family's love and a summons from someone greater. Deep peace filled me, and also a holy anticipation something was about to be revealed beyond all I had ever known. As I rose higher, memories braided together like film reels, my poor Texas childhood, the grinding years to prove myself, the times I turned my back on my parents' faith, telling myself only science and sight were real. But gazing down at my own body, I knew a greater truth. We are more than flesh, and death is not the end. I understood why Scripture speaks of the soul. It is real, alive. It sees, hears, loves, and aches. A strange music began to play, not from machines, but from the very air, gentle and orchestral, wind and strings woven together. I felt unseen hands lifting me, as if someone whispered, "Don't be afraid. You're on your way home." In that moment, I knew I had truly left my body, and what I thought a myth had become my reality. I sensed someone behind me, no footsteps, no sound, yet a presence stronger than anything I had known. A voice, not to my ears but in my soul, spoke warm, kind, sovereign. "Mark, do you want to go on or go back?" I turned to find the speaker, but saw only light and immense white radiance, not glaring or hot, but gentle, pure, and overflowing with love. It didn't merely illuminate, it penetrated. In its presence, every question about meaning, pain, purpose was answered without asking. All doubt and fear dissolved. I knew I stood before God. No face needed. My soul recognized what my mind had denied for years. He knew me every flaw, every word, every buried thought. What melted me wasn't that he knew everything, but that he loved me knowing it all. Instead of judgment, he wrapped me in an indescribable love. No condemnation, no shame, only the sense that I had belonged here from the start. I wanted to weep, but there were no tears, only light flowing through my soul, cleansing, healing, making me part of that love. Then my life began to play like a film, not rushed or slow, but complete and clear. I saw myself as a child running in the yard, my mother smiling at the stove, my father teaching me to pray. I saw youthful recklessness, angry words that wounded others, moments I could have helped but turned away, times I stayed silent when I should have forgiven. Everything appeared like pristine water reflecting truth. Yet I felt no accusation, no threats, no scolding, only understanding. Every word and deed carries weight, sending ripples that touch others with love or with pain. Through it all, the light surrounded me. I heard his voice, soft as spring wind yet stronger than thunder. "Mark, you were made for love. Don't just exist, live to love." I realized how I had been consumed with building, calculating, achieving, forgetting the simplest thing, to love. In heaven there are no titles, money, or status, only love and what you did in love. The light carried me farther. I saw other souls, shining and being healed, some bright as beacons, others faint, needing help to remember they are loved. Every soul has a story. None are forgotten. God abandons no one. He waits for each to remember the way home. I heard him within me. "I did not make you for fear, but for love. Each time you forgive, you resemble me. Each time you give, you reflect my light." I saw years I had looked down on people for being different. Words I had called truth that were really lack of compassion. I also saw small right choices, a smile, a helping word, a moment to listen shining here like stars. In heaven, every act born of love is remembered forever. When the life film ended, I found myself kneeling in the light, not forced, but willing, wanting to thank, to apologize, to say, "Lord, how can you love me when I've forgotten you so often?" And he answered, not in words but in a tide of love, "Because I never forgot you." Here, every question, conflict, and sorrow dissolved in his love. There was no more why, only because you love. The light invited me deeper. With every step I felt lighter, brighter, truer, no longer a small, limited man, but a soul expanding in perfect peace. Flowers opened without wind, colors unseen on earth, music without instruments, everything sang of life, not biological life, but eternal life. Then his voice again. Mark, do you see? Everything I made was born of love, and so were you. When you love, you touch your truest self. I bowed in endless gratitude. Lord, I have never been worthy. He answered gently. No one is worthy, Mark. I choose to love so they may become worthy. No one is hopeless. No sin is too great to be forgiven when a heart truly turns back. Wherever people are, whatever their past, they're invited into the Father's arms. Just as I thought I would remain in that light forever, I heard him ask, Mark, will you stay, or go back and tell them I live, I love, I wait? I looked back, saw my wife, my son, and multitudes still searching, still unsure. My journey was not finished. This light was not for me to keep, but to carry home, to share with those still walking in the dark. I heard that gentle voice again within my soul, stronger than any earthly sound. Not yet, Mark. You still have something to do. Instantly, a powerful force drew me downward, not a violent fall, but a firm, tender hand returning me. I felt myself dropping through space, through layers of light, through a million memories. Then darkness wrapped me like a heavy blanket. The wind faded, the music dimmed, and the hospital's white light replaced heaven's glory. I opened my eyes and drew a deep breath like a newborn. The doctor shouted, "He's back!" The monitor resumed its rhythm, beep, beep, beep. I burst into tears, not from fear, but knowing I had been given a second chance to live, to love, to change. My heart beat again, but it wasn't the same heart. Lying there with tears on my cheeks, ceiling above me like open sky, I knew I had seen what people call the other side. I had touched eternity, heard the Creator's voice, and been sent back to fulfill something bigger than myself. When the nurse placed her hand on my shoulder, I didn't just feel help. I saw a soul God used to anchor me to life. When the doctor exhaled in relief, I didn't just see a healer. I saw a man placed by God in the right place at the right time for his purpose. From that day, nothing was the same. I left the job I once thought was everything and began a new path. I visited ICU rooms to sit with the desperate, as others had sat with me holding hands, telling them hope remains. I shared my story on television, at medical conferences, in churches, and at universities, not for attention but to say, there is life after death, a love greater than our failures, and it is never too late to come home. I now see the world with new eyes. When I look at someone, I don't just see a body, an age, an occupation, or a status. I see a soul temporarily clothed in flesh, loved, called, created with purpose. The cashier is a precious soul. The homeless man is a precious soul. Doctors, professors, students, laborers, all precious souls. No one is anonymous to God. I became a different man, not perfect, but changed. I learned to forgive faster, love deeper, live lighter. I stopped chasing what can't last extra hours, big projects, bigger paychecks, and pursued what cannot be lost. Kindness, goodness, faith, love. I keep a journal of each encounter, testimony, and small miracle in this new life, knowing every story is a seed of hope planted in someone's heart. As I tell my story, I still hear the Lord within me. Mark, tell them I am real, I love, I wait. You don't have to lie on an operating table to seek God. You can seek Him today, in this very breath. No one has gone too far to return. This life is only the opening chapter. We won't carry money, fame, or power beyond the grave, only the love we gave. I was given a second breath not to live for myself, but for His purpose. I go where I never thought I would, prisons, rehab centers, cancer wards, and each time I look into eyes filled with pain, I see myself on that table. I hold a hand and whisper, "I've been to the other side. He's real. He loves you." In that moment I see heaven's light spread not as a vision, but as a heart opening. Even now I feel that second breath in my chest, not just air, but new life, a reminder that every day is a gift, and every moment an opportunity to love, forgive, believe, and hope. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. I live each day with gratitude and faith, praying my story reminds someone that wherever you are, whatever you've faced, there's still a chance to begin again, to return, to be loved. I stand on the stage of a new life, not the old atheist engineer, but a man who walked through death's door, saw beyond, touched unspeakable love, and was given a second breath to tell you that what we've all been searching for, meaning, peace, forgiveness, is no illusion. Out-of-body experiences aren't just my story. They're the testimony of thousands who reached the border between life and death and returned with the same message. We are not merely flesh and bone, not just heartbeats, breaths, jobs, and plans. We are souls made of love and light. I once thought death was the end. Now I know it's a doorway, a corridor that leads us home to the one who made us. I say this with deep humility. I once mocked faith, believing only matter was real. But when I left my body, when I watched it lie still, and heard my wife weep and my son pray, I understood that the soul is stronger than the body, and love is stronger than death. Whether you call him God, the source, or the cosmic consciousness, every testimony converges at one point. Love is the essence of life. I stood before that light and heard him say, "You were made for love. Don't just survive, live to love." When I returned, I couldn't stay silent. I went from cancer wards to prisons to churches hungry for a true good news, and I told my story not to impress but to give hope. If you have breath, I say, you have a chance. If your heart still beats, you can turn back. Don't wait for an operating table to seek God, you can find him now. Looking into each face, I no longer see only bodies. I see souls, loved, called, awaited. Each morning I wake with new gratitude. I breathe deep and say, "Thank you, Lord, for this breath, this chance, this day to love." I used to live, to achieve, to build, to control. Now I live to give, to forgive, to reflect his light. One day I will walk through that door again, not in fear or regret, but in joy, going home. I once thought death was the end. Now I know it is only a door, and beyond that door is home. A home of peace, love, and forgiveness where there are no tears, no sickness, no parting, where we will see our Maker face to face. As I share this, I pray you wherever you are, whatever you're going through, will open your heart and realize you are loved more than you think, called to a purpose greater than you know, and that nothing, not even death, can separate you from that love. You don't have to stand before the light to believe it's real. You can begin today, in this breath, right where you are. God is calling your name, waiting, loving. You don't need to be perfect to come only willing. When you do, your life will change, the light will enter, and you will know, as I know, that we are not just flesh. We are souls, made of love and light. See you next time for light and love beyond words. Those who have glimpsed heaven will share what they cannot forget. I pray my story plants a seed of hope, a spark of truth, so that even when darkness gathers, light remains greater, and when death comes, it will not be the end, only the doorway that brings you home.